Hi there, my name is Leszek Stelmachowski and welcome to Fitness Soul Podcast. My today's guest, it's the old friend of mine. We've met a few years ago on the squash court. At this time I didn't know that Laurence is worldwide known photographer, especially the commercial photographer. He done work for biggest company in the world. He's also really famous from his own private photography and private art. In today's episode, we'll talk about life balance and how to live your life to feel alive and have fun in the same time. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to our chat with Laurence. Thank you for being here.
That's all right.
It's been a long time. Basically, how I met you.
I remember going into Meadowbank. I can't imagine how many years ago it must be now. It must be probably about 7 years ago,
7, 8,
something like that. You were there and you were working there, but and I'd seen a sign up. I just played a couple of games of squash with my wife, and I didn't even know how to play, didn't know the rules, and I saw something up that said, "Are you interested in joining squash group for coaching for whatever?" And I think I just signed up for that, and nothing happened for probably for 6 months or a year even, and then you picked up on that, so we all started playing then. And I never stopped since then.
And you never stopped.
Yeah.
And you're still playing now.
Oh yeah. No, all the time. I'm completely nuts about it. I think I did running before that, and I loved that. But there was something about the competitive nature of squash, and I kind of go on about this quite a lot because but it was so true for me that as soon as I started to play squash, I just felt everything in me just step up a little bit.
Okay.
And it was, I think I wasn't doing much fitness before that, enough, occasional running. But, I can't recommend, I didn't realize to the extent that doing a sport and, something in such an intense way changes your life. It really changed things for me, and I'm now so used to it I don't notice that, but if I don't play it, I start to feel a bit grubby, and I get back to playing and I feel great again.
I remember when you came, and I didn't know what you do for a living. I had no idea, just another person wanted to learn playing squash, and I found you like someone who is so obsessed with things. It's like you've been so into it. Obviously there was no skills there yet and stuff, but you've been
still not.
I saw you playing now, is much better, but it's like this passion for doing something like that.
Yes.
And then I found out you're a photographer, and then you can clearly see this in your pictures, especially your private pictures, that there is something in you, something deeper. It's kind of, you can get in, and as you said, you are obsessed still with it.
Yes. It's in my nature. It was my family, my father in particular, before me, had a very obsessive nature, and he got very fixated on things. He was a magician and ran businesses and just had all kinds of things he was doing, and he really fixated on things, and I guess that's been my nature. Whether when I was a child, whether it was pearl fishing or digging for crystals in the ground, and I never fitted in with the other sort of things that kids were into. I got something in my mind, vision. And that was it, so. And as soon as I got into photography, I thought that's definitely it, and I went to study it. And I remember it, hitting me to the extent that how much photography meant to me when I was at college. And I said to one of the other students, so why did you choose Salisbury to come to study photography? And they said, oh, well, I didn't get onto the maths course I wanted to do, and I thought, what? it was maths or photography, and and for me it was like I was a photographer from when I first picked up a camera. That was what I was doing. That's what I was going to focus all my energy on. And the notion of somebody deciding between maths and photography seemed really bizarre to me. I understand a bit more of it now, but for me it was, it was tunnel vision.
So how many years you are doing this now?
Oh, well, the college days, that was well over 25 years ago.
So when you've been your first time you had the camera and then you thought this is it, because the college was
I don't know, I suppose there was a bit of a sort of transition time, but probably 30 years no yes 30 years ago, and that's when I first started messing about, built a dark room, and just realized I loved it, and I would be in the dark room till 2 a.m. in the same way that I'm still, at the computer, 2 a.m, because I can't stop. It's digital darkroom now, of course, but I just completely love it.
So you're not the best person to ask about the life balance.
No, you should speak to my wife about that. Okay. Because she says to me at about 1 a.m, or more likely about midnight, she says, "I'm going to bed. Are you still working?" And as I say, "No, I'm not working. I'm playing. This isn't work. This is fun for me." Because even sometimes when it's jobs, it's still quite fun. But generally, a lot of the time when I'm putting a lot of hours in, it's on my own personal projects, and there the time just zips by. But I'm loving it, so I don't mind whether it's shooting or post production, whatever. It's good.
Yeah. So I saw that you do different things. Obviously, you do the commercial stuff.
Yeah.
And you do your own private things. And are you treating those things equally? Or are you thinking about the commercial stuff as something which pays your bills, and then your private thing, like, this is what my passion really is? Or
Yes. No, well, there's in the past, it was all really commercial, and it took me a long time to find my feet commercially, and it's something that when I first got a decent digital camera and a decent computer, everything stepped up a gear, and I found that that was where I really fitted in. I worked for 15 years, loading dark slides and working on and film in the studio, and it was fun. But when I found what I could do digitally and just completely create things from nothing, and I've always liked created images, and the darkroom, or the sort of working on a computer, really helped me to be able to do that completely, and I very quickly focused on that. So from that point onwards, I found I was increasingly spending more time working on personal projects. And yes, the commercial side definitely supports the personal side, but I do blur the distinctions, because a lot of my personal work, I do try and make that, I commercialize it in the sense that I sell prints on Saatchi Gallery. I've got an exhibition coming up in Aberdeen in a month. So I'm very conscious of not just, I don't know, I maybe feel a bit bad about it just being something self-indulgent, even though I love it. I think, let's try and make this pay, because in the ideal world, I move from doing less commercial work and more into my personal work, and get known and commercialize that in one form or another. Yeah.
So now in the photography world, there's Laurence Winram, and what do they think about you? Who you are? What you are famous for? If I ask your friends photography, what do they would say?
They would say, people would say the Coneman. The Coneman. And it's something I've not really done much with in the last few years, but it was the first big project I did just as I was starting to work on digital. Some of it's shot in film, but that one was very much born out of nothing. Well, the whole idea has got quite a story behind it. These guys with their hats and their suits, and the series of this. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm so not a spooky person, but for some reason I'm drawn to some of these sort of darker, stranger images. The main thing about these images was I really wanted them to be ambiguous and uncertain, the story that's being told, and that's really for the viewer to interpret that. So I've had people come in and say, "Oh, these guys are pretty dark. They're nasty guys." Or other people just see them as as quite fun, and I don't like to explain them too much because the appreciation for me of working on this is that it's other people bring what they want to the way they view it. So it's been a huge fun series to work on, and I really was quite conscious at the time I started out with this project that this is going to help me in, as a personal project that I want to do, but also it creates a sense of identity. And there, maybe a little like a lot of fine art photographer friends, they go out and they do their fine art projects. They're not thinking about it in terms of an image for their photography. Where for me, I'm comfortable mixing the two. I can take my personal project and give it a strong identity that when I walk into a design or an advertising agency, people might not know my name, but as soon as if they hear my name, they'll say, "Are you the guy with those cone?" They always call them cone heads, and it's Coneman. It's Coneman, and they always point that out, and it's quite nice in that they know those pictures. So
you said that everyone get different opinion about this, and for I know this one picture when you're wearing white.
Yes,
you're on the right hand side.
It's the very first one.
Yeah, and then you've got these guys behind you, kind of chasing you or something. For me, it's like, for me personally, it's like someone, you are there trying to run away from demons, which kind of trying to get you, and it's
there is elements of that. It all refers back to an amazing Hieronymus Bosch painting called The Conjurer, which we had over our mantelpiece when I was a child, and all these Coneman pictures kind of refer back to that, and that is a very strange painting, and that you can't work out exactly what's going on, and that was what I really liked about it. And it does seem quite dark, and at that time there was some tough stuff going on for me at that time when I took that photograph, but it was a huge amount of fun to produce. But I like this slightly dark kind of feel to it, and again, it's how people choose to interpret that. But the process of doing them, that is a huge amount of fun. It's a lot of work. It's stressful. It's lots of yelling, stand there, move there, whatever. But it's enormously rewarding, and that was a bit nerve-wracking as well, because you expose yourself as a person working on something so personal. And myself and my brother sent out postcards to half a dozen people with a little sketch on it saying, "This is what we're going to do." And it was a sketch exactly like the photograph, actually. And it just said, "Right, you've got to be here at 6 p.m. on a Friday night. You bring a sleeping bag and a suit, and some beer and some food, and no wives and no children, and you'll be set free on Sunday." And they all turned up. They all turned up in their motorbikes and cars and whatever. They all turned up, and we sat in a big bonfire outside and had a great time. And the next day went and did our photograph. And so that was the beginning of that whole project, and I absolutely have loved working on it since.
Yeah, so you had this, and then I know you've got the Watchers. The Watchers.
Yes,
this one, the crazy one on the
ladders. Yes. People do notice that one and know that one, and that's been well received, and it hung for a couple of years in the Saatchi Gallery, which was great. I very flippantly entered it into an online competition,
which you won.
Well, I came second in it, but the winner and the runner-up both had their images shown in the Saatchi Gallery. So that was the win. That was the thing I really wanted to get done, because it's great for me approaching galleries or just for credibility. And the other great thing was I got to email every one of my clients saying, "Go and vote for me. I've got this competition coming up." And I didn't realize that so many people would. They had to register to vote, and they all did it. And I was gobsmacked and really appreciative. And again, for the year after that, I'd go into agencies and they'd say, "Oh, you got your print in," and that's, I think about things commercially as well. I think that was great to get that good feedback with clients.
And I think you said it's kind of those two words mixing, like the commercial, because when you watch there's the restaurant photos. Is it like from the restaurant with the chef, and it's kind of, you can see the same pattern, the same thinking there.
Yeah, we did some crazy shots. I mean, there's a funny story about shooting these kind of images. I was told to go into a restaurant. It was over in Dublin, and the designer said to me, the brief for this is to shoot a lot of images. It's quantity, not quality. And I said, what? Don't you mean the other way around? And he said, no, it's quantity, not quality. And they just want hundreds of pictures. And I said, you're going to get hundreds of not very good pictures then. Mm-hmm. I said, and they made up their mind. That's what they wanted to do. And I said, it's at lunch break. Can I go and take a couple of my own shots then? Can I do something a little bit more fun? And they said, yeah, sure. And I got some time off there. And so I chose to focus my time there, and I went into the kitchen and I said, what's the strangest thing you've got in here? And the guy goes, crabs. I've got a pot of crabs. And I says, great, can we photograph them? And he took them out and we put them all over the floor, and he had them in a ladle. It was a really fun shot to do. And I didn't have much time to do it, but I got to spend enough time and invest something of me in those images. And the funny thing is, at the end of the job, they said, oh, these are the ones we love, and they've used them a lot. And I tried to express to them, you see, I got to invest some of my time and energy in that. And if I was asked to produce less images, you'd create greater value in the images I was producing. So it was a sort of learning process, and trying to communicate through to people that giving me a bit more time on something and letting me bring an idea to
and bringing
to
your brain.
It's always worthwhile, because a lot of the time when you're asked to do a photograph, the idea is the best idea that a designer has had, and not the photographer. It's like your idea is a bit limited by somebody else's idea of what a photograph should be. And it's great. I love it when I'm brought in early and somebody says, what can you bring to this? That's a fun way. That's the fun way to, I can bring my creative interpretation of things.
It would be crazy to, hiring you and saying, listen, the shot need to look like this on the photo. I can do this probably. If you show me the photo, maybe not me, maybe someone who is a little bit better with the camera can do it easily. But having you and having your brain, this is the cool part.
Well, that's some designers, some creatives, they do give me that scope to do that. I mean, the funny thing about that one I did with the chef was the next time I was doing a shoot a bit like that was over in Chicago, and again we were shooting tons and tons of shots in the day, but they said, we liked what you did the last time, so you've got a whole hour with this chef. And the chef came out, and I says, I wonder if he's got anything interesting. And they'd got it all ready, and they had a fish that was like about 3 feet long, and he came out with that, and there's blood dripping off of it and things. And so I got a portrait of him with this fish around his neck, and just a crazy picture. And it was really fun, and they bought into the idea. And so I like the notion that I'd kind of educated them about, let's invest some time and energy. I mean, we did crazy things. They had a frozen leg of lamb, and we had him out on the street in Chicago hailing taxis with this leg of lamb, just to make a kind of crazy picture, because it creates I've always thought an image should have something that makes people curious, so they go, oh, what is this? Come and see this. Come and see this picture. What's this about? That's, for me, is what I like to communicate in an image. And sometimes that's a hard thing to do when you're asked to photograph members of a board or something. Like something. There's always shots like that to do.
It's always the boring part of job, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, there is. But at the same time, for me, there's always an enjoyment, even in those shots, because you're always trying to create the best image you can and think, how can I be creative with my lighting? How can I make this shot stand out? And even if it's quite a straight shot, for me, it's, you're doing exactly the same process as when you're working on a creative image. You're bringing the same mind, the same creativity to bear. It's just people think because they're wearing a suit, then it's dull. I remember an artist friend of mine said, what were you doing today? And I said, I was photographing a bottle of whiskey all day. And she said, oh, that sounds horrible. And I said, no, it was great. It's really, really hard to do properly, really properly. And I said, I just invested 100% of myself in that. That is an enjoyable process. So whatever it is you do, if you can invest yourself in it, if you can put that creativity into it, I think you can make a hell of a lot of situations more interesting.
And it's really just getting into one thing, not making this multitasking thing when you just want to do one thing at the time and getting whole brain dead.
That tunnel
important.
vision. I mean, I think I do jump around a bit. I'm a bit frenetic. I'm always, even my photographic projects, I'm always leaping from one project to another. I find it hard to sort of, I feel a bit like a child in that sense. It's all playing. That's what
I saw you. Laurence took few pictures. You took few pictures of me. I remember the squash one, and this was kind of experience. It's like you are a completely different person in your studio. You are
really?
You are like. I was there. I was shocked because you've been everywhere. Like do this. This light. I was like, my God, this guy loves what he's doing. It was amazing to see it. Because normally I just saw you on the squash court and with the racket and stuff, and you've been listening to me, and then suddenly you just opened this Pandora box, and you've been like, it was amazing.
Yeah, well, it's funny because a lot of these personal photographs in particular, I'd started them largely with just myself, or sometimes it'd just be photographing myself and my brother, because he lives quite far away. When we'd meet up, we'd always take a photograph of something, just to celebrate the moment, and have ever more elaborate plans for photographs. And for me, there was always a point where we were both like collapsing in fits of giggles because of what we're doing. And to me, that sense of, just because you can be doing a project that you want people to take a bit seriously doesn't mean to say you can't have fun and play with things. A lot of fine art, I find, is terribly dry and academic and takes itself rather seriously. For me, life is a lot of fun in it, life, and I like to play. So that's what I like to bring.
But you're saying you like to have it playful and fun, but someone who's watching your pictures, it's like they are so dark.
That's
like,
funny thing.
Why you?
Yeah, I know.
There's no
flowers
there. There's no nice colors. It's everything.
No.
It's dark and shadow. You've got a lot of drama coming. From them.
Yeah. Well, I think that all comes back to this this Hieronymus Bosch painting of the Conjurer, which was really dark. And I don't know. There's something about that. When I was a child, we had art books, and I'd sort of page through them, and I was always drawn to these stranger images. So I can't really say. I'd friends of my wife who's Canadian. These friends lived in America, and they'd never met me, and they said, and my wife said, "Oh, come and meet Laurence on the FaceTime chat thing," and they were like, "Oh, okay." And they were really a bit nervous about it, apparently. And then when they met me, and I'm all giggly and chatting away afterwards, they said, "Oh, we're so relieved. We thought he'd be really moody and difficult because we've seen that in his photographs.
Yes.
I thought it'd be all serious." And I think, no, it's just not. I don't have that. I'm not that serious a person in that sense. No.
So you said something about. I was trying to figure out. I was reading a little bit about you, and then in the Saatchi Gallery, you've got this thing about the Greek philosophy and Greek guys who kind of going. There's this balance.
Yes,
between,
the balance.
This is what you're trying to do. Like, just to explain it, is like, if I understand it right. So basically, you've got this real thing, which is like scientific proven, and everything needs to be straight.
Logic.
And there's logic, and then you've got this myth where and people. Where kind of everything is surreal, and everything is a little bit kind of shadowy.
Yes.
And why people are drawn to this? It's like, do you, because now everything is so scientific. I do. If I read some paper and there is no underneath, there is so. Let's say someone is saying eating protein is good. And if I don't see under that some doctor just check it on 100,000 people, I mean, it's probably bullshit.
Yes. Well, of course, that has its place. And obviously, empirical data in the way we analyse and look at things is an enormously valuable and a brilliant thing that's transformed all our lives. That's modern world is entirely built on that kind of scientific and logic-based thinking. It was a Western way of seeing things. But I feel like we've abandoned our sense of myth and playing and different ways of seeing and understanding things, and I really feel a bit sad that our over reliance on empirical data, we try to apply that to our lives, where sometimes people just need to have a different approach, more creativity. Like in school, we're busy teaching people, pretty advanced mathematics, and I think surely you should be and trying to teach people how to be more creative with their lives and how to see things in different ways, different cultural perspectives. So all the conflicts in the world, to me, seem to come about from a lack of understanding of other people's visions, of other ways of living, other ways of being. We have this rigid way of it.
But I think it changes. I had a few days ago, I had Mark here. Mike is Tuina practitioner, and it's like Chinese medicine.
Oh yeah, great.
And he's really good in it, and he helps people by Chinese medicine. But if you go to your GP doctor, they will say, no, it cannot work.
Yes. Well, this is where these are things I'm interested in. I like sort of interest in things like parapsychology. I think, well, we even within that, there's empirical data that's really interesting. But then there's so much evidence, there's so many experiences people have had that when I've spoken with friends who are purely scientific about it, they say, "Oh, that didn't happen. You've got your facts wrong. It's not real." And they are pretty unscientific in the way they shoot it all down. Like, no, that doesn't work. And I think, are you closing yourself off to a whole lot of different ideas, ways of understanding things? And I feel a bit sad that we don't see things a little bit more like that way and look at, well, how is this affecting people, and especially medicine, the likes of medicine.
Oh, this is the big one.
Things are changing in that, even our regular medical world will recognize the power and the benefits of positive thinking, of meditation, of yoga. We start to see that there is because there's empirical data on it, it's proven data, they can say, yeah, do this. But they'll be very analytical and say, well, you're producing alpha waves or beta waves, therefore, there's some validity to it. And I think, why have you got to break it down and force it into this logic, empirical way of seeing it? I think that if we look at things and just appreciate them for what they mean to a person, when we analyze things, we can't give much veracity to data that's gathered from one person's experience. It's all got to be 1,000 people, and then cut off all the extremes, and then take the figure 52%. And that's what it means. I think what people's experiences are valid, and we need to take them on a bit more. So
by showing the different side of world in your pictures, you're trying to kind of help us a little bit to understand that?
I think I just like to play with the ideas that we don't have to be so focused on logic, and the way myth, we can make sense of our lives through myth. So I like to play with these ideas. I mean, there's a picture, the Edison machine. Now, Edison, before he died, he was an incredible inventor, and he actually had drawings, apparently, of a machine to communicate with the dead, which is amazing. And I'm not saying that would have worked or been real, but I love the fact that he felt free enough to imagine or to work on something like that, which today would just be suicide if anyone in the sort of medical world even discuss that. That's the thing. It becomes like, it's like exactly. It's become a taboo, and that seems terribly small-minded to shut things off in that way. So I created an image of that, and a lot of the other images, like the Watchers. I'm trying to create maybe a vision of a world where logic doesn't play such a heavy part, where it is surreal, where there are things that are defying our visions of science and defying gravity. It's taking an artistic vision and fun and playing with the ideas of myth and logic.
That's good. We can probably talk about this for ages.
Yes.
But I've got a few questions which are a little bit down to ground now. Because you're 30 years being photographer, and everyone is having the phone like that and have the camera here. It's quite good camera. Do you've got any like 3 or 4 tips for people to get the better pictures? Because everyone is taking pictures, but some of them are like crap. Sorry for this. And then how to do it better? Obviously, you don't have the fancy lighting. And have you ever thought about this?
Oh yeah. Well, I'd say it's very. It's
what do you
not
think
too
about
much.
selfies? Do you like selfies?
I don't know. It seems like a reflection of the self-obsession age we live in. I'm not a fan of selfies. It's not something I do. But then I'm not 22 anymore, so I don't really want to see pictures of myself.
Do you take the picture of your food?
Of my food?
Of food, the moment you're eating it, just put
the food. The food. Well, I guess I've probably done it. I'm probably guilty of that. But no, and really, I'm not somebody who sort of voraciously posts every moment of my life. I tend to post the online, post images, the things I'm creating, the projects I'm working on, the things that move me more than anything else. But in terms of tips for producing better images, well, there's an old adage which is, if the picture's not working, you're not close enough. So getting in close, and there's a great expression. If you're it's very easy to be lazy and to photograph things that you're comfortable with. It's within your own family. It's yourself again and again. But what I say is, do the things that scare you. Do the things, and even if it's scary, walk towards it. The best advice I ever got for anything, and this is all pre-Nike advertising campaign, was just do it. And I remember saying to the guy who said it, and I says, do what? And he says, it doesn't matter, just do it, just get on with it, stop fussing, just get on and produce. Or if you're going to do something, if you're going to take that trip, or if you're going to start a sort of convoluted project, or it doesn't matter if it's photography or whatever it is, but just get on and do it. And I spoke to some students the other day, and they were asking about which project to do, what they should do, and I said, the best project for you to work on is the one that you're actually going to do. The results of that are going to be 100% better than the project that you just don't do.
It's like it's amazing what you said, because I spoke with someone about the lists and what you do with, like, let's say you're putting five things on the list every day, to just kind of program what you want to do, and someone just point me out that the best thing you should be doing, the one which is the scary one. So in the first moment, you're just doing this. It means you are scared of this, but you probably should be doing this. Yes.
Fear is such a big killer, especially in photography. I see all these students who are producing some interesting work, and they're just finding their feet. But if you put them into a sort of scenario where there's a client saying, right, can you do this job? I remember just how scary that kind of thing is. And for me, obviously with so many years experience, I've just learned to deal with that. And there came a moment where I just went, do you know what? I can't be bothered with this, being scared of this anymore. And I got used to doing the jobs, and I got used to it enough where I just didn't feel that fear anymore. And it was so liberating, and it means that, whether it's giving a talk or doing this, or photographing, 20 members of a board, you make sure you're prepared for it, but I can just sort of embrace it and do it. And that fear stifles you so much, and it's a hard thing to overcome, but the only way you overcome it is just by doing it and just going through it again and again and again.
Can you say you're a kind of yes man, that you
I guess
you're just going for it? And
yes. I guess I have my own things. I'm thinking, I should be working on this project a little bit more, but as a rule, somebody said to me the other night, where do you want to be in a year from now? And I'm like, pretty much where I am now, doing the same thing. I love what I do, and I'm building up my own personal work. I'm focusing more on that. I'm keeping going with my commercial side. So I'm happy and letting go of that fear of change. I'm going off to Arles in the south of France in just under a month, to a photo fair there, and I've booked in to see a number of gallery owners and editors and things. These are critics who will have a look at some of my projects, the Coneman, Mythos, Logos, and they will be brutally frank, and they very well may say, I don't like it, this is not for me. But I'm not wary of it, I'm not frightened of that anymore. Some of them might say, oh, this is nice, why don't you speak to such and such a gallery, maybe they'll give you an exhibition. And if you don't ask, you don't get. You know, it's not going to happen. Yeah. You know, I mean, you're a great example of somebody who's kind of thrown themselves at that. When I first met you, you're working at Meadowbank, and that was probably a new experience for you. And then started to run, doing your own squash coaching. And then you turned around and said, no, I'm going to have my own place. Yeah. And you just got on and did it because you're a hard worker. You know, and that to me, that's why I sort of connect with you. But don't give yourself a hard time.
But again, we all do that. I think it's not about hard work. In my case, it's again, I found something which I love. And again, I'm not considering doing this or running this place as a work. The work never exists. It's like I can do this all day, and I will be editing this video, and I will be answering emails, but never ever I will think about the work. If I start thinking about work, okay, I work in Meadowbank doing shifts for 8 hours, and this was killing me. But at this moment, there's so many things to do. And it's like it's so important. Like Joanna, sometimes she's a little bit, or friends who knows me. They kind of there's no fear in me in terms of doing new things, and many times I put myself in the situation that I'm scared, but this is when I'm not scared and I'm doing something, it means I'm not pushing this too far. This is how I'm trying to understand that. So you must be doing the same thing.
Yes, I guess I'm used to that, and I quite like, you know, I maybe, and the nature of my job means that, you know, any given day I'm phoned, right, can you go over and photograph a speedboat? You've got to hang out the side of another boat. And I think, oh, I've never done anything like that before. How's that going to work? How am I going to do it? Great, bring it on. You know, that'll be fun. You know, that's the way that's the approach I tend to bring.
Are there any habits you developed within this many years, which helps you go through the day and makes you get more productive, or maybe to keep you focused on anything you doing? Are you meditating? Do you meditate?
I used to be more focused on my meditation, and on occasion I do, but I think what I found was that I got so much enjoyment and so much focus. The more I focused on really investing my energy in particular in my personal work, and when my family life was, everything is going really well. It's meant that my work and my personal projects almost become like a meditation, because it flows and I feel it flow. So for me, investing my time and energy and being focused about it, I have endless lists that I sort of work through, and I just decide, right, today I've got to get through this and this. And it doesn't always pan out that way. The phone always rings, there's something else happening, but I'm always diving off one place or another, and I don't know, I don't feel too stressed about it. You know, I feel like I've found that balance, but a lot of that I feel has come about through experience. I've come to this point, and I do remember years ago feeling less certain. Where do I put my focus and things? I don't think about it now. It feels, maybe in that sense I'd say, learn from your learn from your experiences, and you try and use your intuition for what's right. I've always tried to keep a very open mind about things, and I do feel like I intuitively find a balance that is correctly struck. Saying that, I'm always being told by my wife I work too hard, and maybe more sleep and
but I think that balance would be good. It's a good thing, isn't it? Having someone like her to keep you anchored in one place.
Yeah, she's like, right, great, we're going to sit outside and have lunch now. You know, that's what we're doing. I'm like, okay, good idea. I must do that. Stop for a moment.
So are you using sport in the same way? Are you using squash
Oh yeah, yes, and sometimes it gives. I'm often traveling with work, so I can't always play, but it's at least 1 or 2 times a week. For me, it's essential. I mean, that's part of my balance for life. Is definitely to have something like squash. The thing I really have liked about squash is that because it is a sort of competitive thing, I think I did read that it produces a different chemical reaction within you that's very stimulating for your mind. I think it was a study done in Scandinavia where they took school children and they got them to do something competitive, physically competitive, before sitting tests. And they found markedly positive results. And I wish they'd just take on some of this more creative way of interpreting things and creative ways of learning in our schools.
But it also works with the cardio aspect of it. It's like there's this book Bounce. I don't know if you hear about this. It's like they've done the same project with schools, and they introduced the additional PE session before the school. Yes. In like 7 in the morning or something, and those kids who went there for those, and they've done really hard cardio sessions like running, and there was like a lot of intense things, and then those kids learned much quicker. And
you can completely understand it, and it's trying to create our culture where we can accept and know that, that would be ideal.
Good.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're coming into the end of this because we've been talking already almost an hour.
All right,
and
cool.
We have to. So it was great pleasure. Honestly.
All right, okay.
And it was fantastic. Just tell me or tell us, where is the best way to see your work? Do you got the website?
Yes. If anyone just Googles my name or Winram itself, fortunately I've got a unusual surname, so if you put in my name in Google, Winram, you'll come up with my website or the business Facebook page or the Saatchi page, which all has my work. So googling Winram, WINRAM.
That's the way. Is there any way to buy your prints? Or?
Yes. I mean, people can always approach me directly, or on the Saatchi website, I sell signed editions and limited editions there. But you can also buy a print that Saatchi produces. It's a sort of unsigned version. That's a bit more affordable, so there's a few different options.
How about, are you available for any projects? Like, let's say someone is watching this and he needs the photographer for something. Are you available for it?
Yes, of course. There's drop me an email, and I can always get back to people and discuss a project.
And you can always phone Laurence for some squash if you want.
Exactly. Yeah, that's even better. Wow. Or photographs and squash.
Yeah,
great.
Anyway, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, lads. That was great. That was fun.
Awesome.